Let's have a little fun, shall we?
Let's see if that went through. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. All right, everybody. I think everybody can hear you. I don't know if the sound was on that. Analytics and go to the right page, and we will be all great.
Let's have a little fun, shall we?
Everybody should be able to hear me right now. So we were just talking about how great of people we are, and that's about it. And you can see my analytics on screen for some reason. Let me get rid of that. There we go. You guys can see how great my channel is doing. All right, what's going on, everybody? Justin Thomas here. This is Top Shelf Fandom Before the Dust Settles, the final episode of Season 3 for Westworld Crisis Theory, and I am here with a lovely group of people. Sorry, ran into some tech problems along the way, but it's all going to be gravy from here. I want to go ahead and first introduce my two guests. First off, Vanessa Cole. Westworld Watchers on the Wall, the Nightcast. Tell it all the art, all of your talent. Go ahead and let people know.
Hi, everyone. Yes, I write for Westworld Watchers and Watchers on the Wall. I am an artist. You can follow me on Twitter at VKColeArtist, Instagram at VKColeArt. I also do a podcast at Nightscast, which is on a bit of a hiatus because there isn't a whole lot of news coming out about the Game of Thrones universe. But I also do a Stephen King podcast. So if you're interested in that, it's at Needful King on Twitter, and you can find us on Patreon at Needful King.
Awesome. Happy to have you here. Thanks for making the time. W. Axel Foley from Daily DVR coming back on Tuesday to reclaim your throne from the podcast I've been taking over. So I really am looking forward to that challenge in that fight. So how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, man. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for putting forth the energy to make this happen this evening. I'm ready to talk about this. Oh, you could check me out at dvrpodcast.com, Westworld Theory Cast. And yeah, man, you've been kicking ass with Jenny and Brett. And,
they make it very easy. They make it very easy.
You do too, pal.
Yeah, thank you so much. Sorry, I'm getting my analytics off the screen really quick. So Johnny B. Crazy, House of the Conqueror, say hello to everybody. And if you could give us a text specs really quick. And now everybody's perfectly on screen.
What's up, everybody in the chat? I hope y'all enjoyed this episode. I have some feelings about it. You'll get to know it. Westworld, the Season 3 finale, Episode 8, Crisis Theory. The 28th installment in the series is 75 minutes long, written by Jonathan Nolan and Denise Day, and directed by Jennifer Getzinger. The title, Crisis Theory, there's a couple of meanings. The psychological meaning. Crisis theory provides a sound framework on which intervention can be based. Such theory states that a crisis will occur when a pre-existing psychological equilibrium is upset by life events. Intervention aims at bringing about a new equilibrium, which involves the most adaptive resolution possible. And I'll say that for now. We'll get into it a little more later.
You sound like a commie there. That's some Marxist stuff, eh? No, thank you so much. And then let's go over to John, Codex Videos, our newest addition from across the pond. Again, saying a big fuck you to how time works in sleep. I hope you survived this. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me back on. I really enjoyed last week. And yeah, I'm happy to talk about the final episode. Obviously, I'm going to do a review tomorrow on my channel at Cortex Videos, so check that out if you're into any more Westworld discussion. But thanks again, Justin.
Thank you, man. You are a gem that I found in the Westworld community, and I'm happy that I found you and snatched you up. So, speaking about gems, Mackenzie L. Burns, the QA. If you guys have any questions, insight, anything you want to share, I hate saying questions. Like we're gonna tell you how everything is and how smart we are. But yeah, any insights, anything you want us to discuss, Jeff, definitely your best bet is to direct it towards our QA. Say hi, Mackenzie L. Burns. She's here, right? Did she mute herself? Mackenzie.
Oh, there's no sound.
Let's see. Is she muted?
Maybe her mic Rio Bowen blew up her mic. We can say it's Dolores' fault, which I always subscribe to. You know, she can't even answer for it now, so we can just blame it on her.
Well, let's just let's just assume that she's being dismissive of our feelings and go from there.
Right.
No, Mackenzie, let us know. I can't switch off the screen right now, but check your tools and all that, and we'll get you on track. But all right, let's move into it, everybody. Let's and also. From the Daily DVR, WXO Foley, he's got some pretty exciting stuff that he's going to be able to give out as this stream goes on. We're going to probably do like maybe a trivia question or something like that, but I'm really thankful for you bringing that Cufflinks merch over to Top Shelf Fandom, my friend.
Yeah, baby, cufflinks.com.
Yeah, no, it's classy as hell, man. It really is. I actually really like it. And I'm not sponsored by them. Sponsor me. So, but Axel, let's start with you, since I was shilling for you. What's your overall sentiment of it? And then we'll go across the board. We'll go to Vanessa, then we'll go to John, then Johnny, and then Mackenzie if she's able to be audible again.
All right. Okay. So, I enjoyed where this episode brought us, but I'm not so sure that I totally was along for the ride. I think that some of the execution in the fighting, the action, just the repetitive nature of Dolores and Maeve going at each other without really just having that discussion at the very end. I mean, I guess I understand it. I guess it was part of the plan to bring everyone there and then to have it kind of develop that way. But I don't know. Some of it was a little iffy for me, but I did love the fact that we're now propelled so far into the future. We're playing with it almost like an even playing field between Westworld and the outside world. I like that. So I'm very excited for what's to come in the next, I don't know, however many years. It's going to be like 2 or 3 years before we get another season with coronavirus. But overall, I would say I was positive on it, but I'd have to give it another watch to really kind of settle some of this stuff for me.
Reconcile this within yourself.
Yeah. I'm not negative on it.
No.
Some of it just seemed a little janky to me. I don't know how to describe it. Like just the execution, the crowd scenes when Marshawn Lynch gets shot and then Lena Waithe's like, oh, it's like this big moment. And I'm like, these were two funny characters. You got shot in the shoulder.
Hey, I'm funny, so it's cool for me to get shot.
He jumped out of nowhere too.
To catch that bullet. Dramatic. I just felt that tonally it didn't really. It just wasn't hitting for me. But again, it's the first watch,
In full disclosure, since all the tech issues, I had kind of expedite the situation and go through. So I have a very positive outlook on it, but it could very much change because that was my sentiment about season 2 is I didn't like how they got there, and that's a huge problem with story because it's about the struggle, it's about the journey. Vanessa, how'd you feel?
I actually really liked it. I had some technical issues too getting into it, and so it was a little delayed, but I didn't rush through anything. I did manage to watch the whole thing, even the after credits scenes, and I was pretty happy with how it played out. I didn't have a whole lot of theories going into the finale just because I felt like a lot of this was kind of up in the air. It was really hard to pin down where they were headed with it. But I wanted to believe that Dolores was really fighting for freedom for humanity, as well as the host, that she really did see some good in humans, and I was not disappointed. So I was really happy with the way it turned out.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. Yeah. Yeah, that's just one of the things about doing this after show with the tech. It's kind of a paradox, but that's inside baseball, and it shouldn't reflect on it. So we're still gonna have a good show. I believe the next on the list was our friend John Codex. Too many Johns, man.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it to an extent. I think the way we ended up in this episode, where they're kind of setting up the real world Westworld in a way, they're bringing everyone back into it, and I think for me, I didn't mind the end of season 2. I think season 2, in comparison to season 1, there's no comparison. Season 1 was one of my favorite first seasons of television, but the end of season 2, that idea of choice for the hosts, they very much reflected that in this ending with, I guess, the humans. They've now given the humans, with Caleb being kind of the center figure of that, the choice in where they go, even if they were eventually going to cause a world collapse, as we start to see at the end. For me personally, the end of this episode, it felt like there was an extra 10 minutes. Even though they kind of wrapped up all the storylines, it felt like there was an extra 10 minutes that needed to happen. In particular with, that destruction, in regards to where the world's going come season 4. But the two things that really interested me about this episode were obviously the post-credit scene, similar to season 2, actually, with the Man in Black. And the other thing I'd say was where Charlotte Hale, in regards to all of that, is going next season, because she's now the Dolores that we're following. I mean, the original Dolores seems to be gone, so is that who we're, is that going to be the center figure next season?
Yeah, and that's a valid. What I like about that is, we know her as the original Dolores only because it's being portrayed by Evan Rachel Wood. But for all intents and purposes, they're all the original Dolores, right?
Yeah. I mean, they've all just ended at different paths.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's one of those things that's hard to get over visually. But yeah, no, I like the idea of that, and I like the idea of putting that agency back into it. Really quick, what is the extent, do you think, of the destruction of the world? Like, what do you think was implied? Like, are we looking at complete nuclear fallout here? What's the deal?
I think even though things have the way they ended up in this episode, I think the overall idea of this ending was to show that even though they're going into a collapse of the world, at the same time they have choice in that collapse. They were always heading to that point. It's what Serac kept reiterating throughout the season, that without this system in place, they would eventually get to that point. But it's beyond that point that now we're going into with season 4. What will the humans who are left in this world, what will they do going forward? Will they rebuild a new, better world? And how does Caleb, as the center man, push them forward into that new world?
So interesting. Yeah, because it's theory about what would happen, and now let's put it into play.
That's what I was interested in, based on the end of this episode.
I love it. The other Johnny, my co-host, my man. How do you feel?
Yeah, well, I really love Dolores' farewell party. We'll get into that a little bit, but with her dialogue, her coming to the realization, I think Vanessa was saying this earlier, that she wants to help humanity be free. She was of one mindset in season 2, of a different mindset in season 1, and she's seemingly become her own person in this season, just in time for her to die. So it's very, very poetic. Also, Hale is going to be our new main antagonist. We had to have someone, and she's got a partner in the Man in Black host. We'll get into my issues with the after credit scenes. I feel the other John on this one, and maybe it's because we have the same name. I don't know. But the riots, I would agree with Axel as well, that the riots were very flat. Caleb's journey to get to Insight seemed like the stakes weren't there. There were people shooting at him, but he always seemed to just have a very quick answer. My issues with it are little issues, and I think I can get over them overall. As John was stating, I really like where they ended up, and I think that it's going to be very interesting in the future. As far as the nuclear fallout, I think we are going to have a nuke at some point. Hale, who is the wild card here, call her the woman in black at this point. She's probably going to, drop a nuke. The host can survive that, I think. The humans can't, so it could be an ultimate weapon that she may decide to use at some point, especially in a point of desperation. And we see Bernard wake up later with all the dust all over him, so maybe something happened, or he's just really dusty.
Has that dust settled? And do I have a lawsuit that's viable against it? Yeah. But Mackenzie, are we back in radio? Oh, there we are. I love your voice.
Yeah, I think it was just because one thing wasn't connected properly, and I'm trying to reduce as much rattling as possible.
Yeah, that rattlesnake.
Yeah. I enjoyed the episode. We find out what Park 5 was used for, and we
train
now know
soldiers, right?
Yeah, it was to train the military, basically.
So
and
Nazis were there.
No, that's a separate park, according to it was Park 5 was always blacked out. Warworld is a separate park, as far as I can tell from the quick Googling. And we also come to know that Caleb and Dolores did know each other beforehand. Dolores was used as one of the women that was in the park, which is kind of like a moment. But I enjoyed it overall. The chat is seemingly liking it. They have some problems of how's this show going to be without Dolores? Like Evan Rachel Wood's Dolores, and a few about the timelines is what they're kind of talking about right now. They're also sad to see kind of this end, as well as some people just didn't like how Maeve's story was this entire season. How it was kind of just used to get to the end, basically.
Yeah,
that's an issue that we will talk about.
Yeah, I mean, okay, let's just take a quick vote. Do you guys really think Evan's out?
No.
Yeah, yeah.
Nah.
I mean, so I get the foibles. Go ahead, Axel.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see her dipping out for next season or a good portion of the season.
One episode.
Have a lot of projects going on now, I mean, and I would be totally fine with it too. I mean, I'm not really wherever the story takes us.
Yeah, and I love that about you, but high concept, big budget, that's not happening likely.
She is the face of Westworld.
Yeah, she's the protagonist. Yes, she is.
And there is a copy with the Connells Pearl that is still out there, and there is a copy with the Lawrence host. That's the Dolores copy. They can just come back into an actual Dolores body with Evan Rachel playing it.
Yeah, it'll be a season. I know what you're saying, though, Axel, and that's what I love about Axel, because Axel's able to embrace it.
What I mean is the same way in which Bernard was really central last season, but he wasn't really this season. I could see her playing a less central role. Yeah, and some of the other players picking up the slack. I think it would make sense for the story, but of course you're right. We don't, and also not only that, I forget what's the guy's name who came out as the police officer.
Lawrence.
Lawrence.
Yeah, it's
Lawrence. Probably her too.
Lalo.
So, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it is.
Again, obviously the whole concept, which we were coming into this season from last season, which is what is real, that which is irreplaceable. She obviously does not believe that anymore.
She never did. Because right after she said that season 2, I always bring this up, that she was shot in Hale's body and then replaced. You know what I mean? But it's, I guess, the Pearl. But okay, what I like about it is the philosophy of this is that Hale is just as much Dolores. You know what I mean? Now she's changed, but it was at the starting point until they diverged and went on their different paths. So the sentiment of your protagonist still being there in a technical sense would still be true, but because it's a visual medium and we're used to Evan Rachel Wood, it would be very, very unlikely for them to go down that route. But I agree with you, because the philosophical side of it makes sense. It's not like we actually lose that Dolores. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, to your point, Justin and Axel, Bernard was the one, or Arnold, that was his line, that which was irreplaceable. And if you look back at this episode, I think he finds out that that's not true, that the memory holds on. That's what he got from seeing his wife again. So he kind of,
the deeper meaning.
He's kind of flipping on that. I don't know if Dolores ever believed that. She might have for a while, but it seems like she'd come into her own this episode. And
I just really loved, guys, like that they were, first off, I didn't like how they ended season 2 with humans can't change and survival is like their only motivation, blah blah blah. That's a big part of it, because in order to survive you got to want that, but like all of this, like, just totally humans are dirt and hosts are awesome, and I know people have issues with that, and it's always been more layered. What I like about it is they were created by humans, and they have this sympathy, this empathy. They have this very virtuous emotion within them. If they're created by humans, that must mean that the humans have it as well. I love that conclusion, that they can't just declare themselves vastly different from them from a behavioral sense or a psychological sense. And it was very intriguing, and it showed some beauty in it. It also showed beauty in how, our memories, not just the bad ones with the post-traumatic growth, which is a real thing. I've experienced it. A lot of people have, but also it's just about, if you lose your memories, and it's a very scary thing with dementia and all that. But it's just, you are losing who you are, and that means the good and the bad. And I know they've been hammering this down, but I think they took it in a broader sense, and because it's always been conveyed with this, it must be pain. And I get it, because pain is the hardest thing to ignore. You can ignore the pleasures in life easier, but I really like the broader sense and the more balanced and measured approach they had to psychology and just the whole philosophy of what makes you you. Arnold's wife, embraced Bernard. And he didn't think that was possible, right? Like, he was very put off by this, like, at first, that she would, but it's like, for all intents and purposes, like, he has those memories. And when I see people say in the comments, Maeve, it never was a mother, she was programmed to be a mother. That's the one thing that really bothers me. Because first off, how do they watch this show? What are they watching it for? Meaning, like, what is their aim? Like, what are they rooting for? If that's your stance on it, like, if you're sitting there and you're telling me that since it was just a programmed narrative that she was not aware of, and she fell in love with her child and had the mother's embrace, and then she was told it was fake, you can just walk away from that. That's insane. You know what I mean? Like, feelings are not up for debate, the validity of them are if you're a dick, but they're a fact, like, it's just, I don't get that set. Like, they've really been hammering home how easily we dismiss these things that we see as artificial, but we are conditioned, we are pre-programmed, and they just keep hammering that down. But still, in my comments, you said Maeve had a mother's love. She doesn't. It was just a programmed narrative. First off, thanks for letting me know that they were in loops at one point. I didn't catch that.
Are people that adopt not mothers and fathers?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. No,
I get it. That's what I equate it to. Maeve adopted that child. She chose to love that child. You can say she didn't have a choice, but she did. She was about to escape the damn park. And this blew Ford away. This made for a very good scene in season 2 when Ford and Maeve had that final farewell. But
and to be real, how many people actually planned the children that they now love? You know what I mean? I'm not saying everybody was like that, but they still love their children. You know what I mean? It's just a very, very simplistic and ignorant way of looking at things. But I really like the sentiment and how they kind of corrected some, at least, I guess I'm happy because my philosophy adds up with this. So, that's a little bit, bias. Vanessa, any thoughts about if this was retconned a little bit at all, in your opinion? And also, I want to jump into this big Maeve controversy because I don't see it, and I think this was like totally like made it right if you were mad about it. But I guess I was never really that upset about it, so I'm not the right person to speak about it.
Regarding Maeve, like, I'm glad the way it turned out, and I think Maeve just wanted to know that Dolores was actually sincere in wanting to help humans be free. I think she was concerned that Dolores just wanted to annihilate everyone, and learning that that's not what she wanted turned her to her side. And plus the fact that Dolores didn't even have the key to the Sublime, so there was no reason for Maeve to have a target on her back anymore. So I'm very happy with how that turned out, because I had wanted them to team up for the longest time, and we didn't really get to see that. But at least she kind of came over to Dolores's way of thinking, which it made me very happy. And like I said, I think we are going to see Dolores again next season. I'm thinking either, like, is it the Connell's Pearl, or the one that's in Lawrence will be in Evan Rachel Wood's body, as far as the actress goes, and hopefully we'll see more of a Maeve Dolores team up going forward.
I just want to add on to that, because I thought it was interesting about what you said about that when you mentioned that Dolores didn't trust herself with it, and we've had this narrative of she's only trusting herself with making more Dolores. Did you I found that to be, I'm gonna have to do another rewatch and some thinking, no drinking on it. You know what I mean? Like some real deep thought on it. But I thought that was very intriguing that she made a bunch of Dolores. I don't find it contradictory at all.
So one thing I think it was Lisa Joy had said in an interview was that, did she create copies of herself because she's that much of like an egomaniac, or whatever the wording she used was? Or was it because she didn't want to sacrifice anyone else other than herself for her end goals? And with the way things wrapped up, I'm thinking it's more of the latter. Like, she didn't want to sacrifice someone that did not want to be sacrificed, because she felt like she needed to have them on her team. Like, I feel like it's, well, if it's just me and like copies of me, it's fine, because this is what I want to do. And if copies of me die in the process, it's fine, because like I'm on board with doing this. So I don't know that she necessarily understood that maybe they would have their own opinions and like diverge from her enough to where maybe they don't want to sacrifice themselves for this goal.
Maybe they want to kill her.
Yeah.
No, I think her intentions.
I like that.
Good. I agree with you, Vanessa. I think that her intentions were good, that she didn't want to hurt other people. Because remember, I think it was episode, was it 5 or 6, when she has the conversation with Maeve, and she says, actually, to Hector and Lee, how many times have you died for her? Nobody's dying for me. But she obviously made an error. And as Ford said originally, it's these errors, it's these abnormalities, what we've come to see throughout this whole season, the outliers, that tell the real story.
Evolution of the mistake.
Yeah, the mistake, right. So it is this mistake, Charlotte, that is going to throw a wrench in her Rehoboam. But the difference is her plan is one of a more organic, that it allows for these type of things to exist. So that's why I think when she saw Charlotte, right, when she came to her as the hologram or whatever, she sincerely was worried about her. She wasn't, I don't think she was faking at all. I think she was like crying, what happened to her, your family.
Yeah.
And I thought that
she
was
saw a ghost.
It's kind of cool the way they did that.
I just think it's an excellent narrative because it works on so many different levels. First off, I always saw it as, it's okay. A general will always say, maybe not do, I don't ask my troops to do anything I wouldn't do, right? So that's the idea. But then it also gives you the narrative of what makes you in that finite sense that we have of our emotional core, and how that can deviate. So that it turns out to be different people. So it worked on so many different levels. And I think it actually, one of the best things done. Mackenzie, you were going to say something. I'm sorry.
There was a question. There's actually 2 good questions in the chat. One question from Louise Brooks is, Maeve's choice to return to the park for her daughter was her free will moment. Why shouldn't the love she has for her daughter be as powerful a motivation as revenge?
It is. What do you?
I think it was. I guess because I think you both were saying that you hadn't really had a problem with her kind of storyline this season. And I have to say that I would be in the camp that was happy the way it ended, because I'm kind of team Maeve, but I did feel as though I just would have thought that Maeve would have, the communication that they had in the end, I think it's possible that it could have happened sooner, but I also see the way Dolores was trying to avoid it in order for this plan to be enacted. But then I was wondering, why didn't it come from Maeve? She's a bit one-dimensional. My daughter. Okay, we get it. But how are you going to feel comfortable going if Sirach is the one sending you to the Valley Beyond? And yet he's also saying he's going to kill you unless you kill Dolores. He's not a trustworthy individual.
Yeah,
it just didn't really make sense for me the whole time, and they just kept on fighting. And after a while, the fights were cool, but after a while, it just became like, I get it, they're fighting.
Yeah, the repetitive nature of it, I didn't like, but at the same time, I do see why she would just side with. She never, I never bought in. I think we've been conditioned to know that she's not gonna buy into everything Sirach. It's a means to an end. You know what I mean? But yeah, cooler heads gonna portray it. Yeah.
In the end, she didn't, and that made me really happy.
Yeah, and that's Westworld.
John.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I'm on board with Axel. I think most of this season, I haven't really liked I understand all of her motivation. It's just they're very light with it, and it's very kind of one-dimensional throughout the season. And in this episode, I really kind of liked the way they took her. I think they brought her back in, and they questioned her with they had Dolores and Maeve questioning each other in a way, and what they stand for. And I think you saw in the end a balance between them in a way that Dolores, we always thought that she wanted to bring a reckoning to the real world, but she didn't at the end of the day. And I think Maeve is, because she's the more sympathetic, I think personally throughout the show, of the two characters, I thought she would be kind of that sympathetic side that really made Dolores make a choice. And similar to the end of season 2, where Dolores made a choice to allow the hosts into the Sublime because she was going to destroy all of it. In this season, she made a choice to essentially give the humans full control over their future. And that's what I really liked about it. And I liked how they balanced that out between Dolores and Maeve. And yeah, again, I agree with a lot of you guys. I think throughout this season, it's just felt a bit too one-dimensional. But now, after this episode, I'm more on board with where she's going as a character. That's what I'm trying to say, basically.
No, absolutely. It's a macro approach from Dolores, and it's a micro from Maeve. Maeve is very much so in the micro. She's with the daughter. Her emotion is driving her. Dolores it is Westworld, people. Again, it is always a very simple story at its base. That is, the wool is over your eyes. By the end of it, if it doesn't all add up and they can't justify the deception, and if it's just deception for deception's sake, which I argue season 2 is, I have a problem with it. This season, from what I saw, I have no issue with it. It does make sense. You're not supposed to understand why these characters are doing what they're doing. You're supposed to ask, what type of behavior is this, and is it okay? Because that's supposed to make you have reflection, some introspect. And actually, that's what the show does. That's why we have these great conversations from it. That's why it works. When you want to say everything isn't real because you don't understand it, in my opinion, that's a red flag about how you go about life, because you must know everything. Else it has to be something different. It's like, no, just take a moment, sit back, and wait. If it doesn't make sense for you, it's because Nolan took his storyboard and threw all the index cards on the ground, like I said, and had the script supervisor pick them up and said, tell it however that is. But that works. If it works and it comes out and it means more, which I believe it does this season, then that is a job that is well done. And it is not an easy way to tell a story, but it's a very effective way. Vanessa, did you have any? Go ahead, John.
Well, I was just gonna say, Maeve is, as much as I hate to say it, a secondary and supplemental character to the story. And honestly, they knew where she was going this season. I feel like they had to fill in some time. That's why we get the 3 samurai sword fight scene. She's always bringing a knife to a gun site fight. But I do agree that where she ended up was good, and where pretty much where she had to end up. I would have just liked her to question it more the whole time. We didn't see. You see more of an open rebellion from Maeve usually, and just because Sirach had that button, she kind of shut up and went with it. But the power of love, the power of love for your child, I mean, that kind of trumps a lot of things. She wasn't looking at the big picture except for her and her child at one point. Even she was kind of dismissing Hector too, to a certain extent. And I think it's really human of her. I think that was something that they did really good this season.
Johnny,
They did have a lot of filler with Maeve.
I just want to jump and say I like what you said there, because you see the way that both Dolores and Maeve made mistakes this season, and they overlooked things. They weren't totally in control the whole time. They weren't forward. There was a plan that eventually, in the end, Dolores was able to accomplish, but there were hiccups along the way and things that she didn't know were going to happen. And I accept that about Maeve. I just think that, in a sense, there is kind of so many characters in the show. And you're right. She did become a little bit more auxiliary this season and was just sent on one task.
Yeah, I can't remember who was talking about that before, and then who cited they have to keep them apart. They said it. Nolan said it in the interview. Yeah, they're using more than one episode, and I said I'd be happy for that. But it's one of those things. It's like she plays a role, she adds layers, but also when you look at Maeve and you look at her motivation, you do have to ride that thin line of when it's. Are they just not asking because they have to wait for the reveal, and that makes sense within the context of the story? And they do mess that up a little bit. It's almost impossible not to. There's a good amount of times when we see people where it's just like, okay, I get there's going to be a bigger reveal here, but you might have needed to do a better job of justifying why this, like Caleb's like just non-questioning of pretty much anything other than this like very like like broad ranging question about what type of revolution they're having was his only insight. But yeah, as far as Caleb goes, I want to take this to you, Vanessa. How do you feel about his character development and how he was handled?
I would like to see more development of his character. I like Caleb. I mean, and maybe it's just because I like Aaron Paul. But I'm anxious to see where he goes moving forward into future seasons, and what he ends up doing. But yeah, I'm really interested in what his role is going to be, especially with like Dolores Prime being gone. Are we probably going to see another Dolores? Yeah, but how? What's the dynamic going to be? It's going to be different because it's going to be a Dolores that has not had a history with Caleb necessarily. Maybe some memories because obviously we see that they knew each other before, but it's going to be kind of fascinating to see how that plays out. But one thing I just wanted to say really quickly about Rehoboam and the new strategy and, the prediction about humanity dying out in 100 so years or whatever it is. I thought it was interesting how they were talking about Solomon taking on some of the schizophrenic thinking of Jean-Mi, who created Solomon, but he also created Rehoboam. So how do we know Rehoboam's predictions are even true? Right? So do we know for sure that humanity is really going to go extinct because Rehoboam predicted it? Like, I think it's really up in the air, and I like the idea that humanity gets to decide and free will is still in play, and we don't necessarily know how this is all going to end up.
No, absolutely, and I think that's like part of the. And again, I hate my biggest worry this season was this chess master storytelling, which worked really well with Ford in season 1. You can't replicate Anthony Hopkins. Just don't try. Don't try to do it again. I was afraid Dolores was going to be that because so much led you to that. It was like, because everybody, Bernard and Caleb, where you're connecting pieces, something we didn't know about each one of their, Dolores played into it more than I predicted. But, there was these foreseen reasons to keep them around. Pretty much Caleb was pulled by the ear this whole season, right? Like where he's going, not asking any questions. He's just needed for what? So the fact that they had errors on all sides really layers the story for me. It makes it more valid. It makes it just something that I'm more interested in. I don't like seeing just Doctor Strange doing what Doctor Strange knew. I don't like Doctor Strange shit. You know what I mean? It's just the way it is. As far as Caleb goes, obviously, I think everybody could use more from him, but that's a good sign too, because it's not like, oh, we hate him, right?
He has more to develop over season 4. We get to see what kind of actual character he has, and we know from this episode that he is a mixed bag, right? He makes bad decisions, he makes good decisions, but the fact that he actually makes his own choices seems to be semi-rare in humanity these days, and that's what Dolores was looking for in him. I find that, it's a very poetic episode, thinking on it.
I thought it was very cool that we get confirmed that she had picked him from the beginning. And that was a part of the season that I was hoping that they would confirm in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mackenzie.
There was some questions about a lot of people are asking about like Stubbs and where is Stubbs is still alive, but also was he the mole? And I'm trying to grab who actually asked the question because it was posed correctly. So it was from Miss Talita. Is Stubbs still the mole? Was he ever more? Will Bernard rebuild Dolores from his memories? And does Maeve now protect Caleb? And the other part was, how did Bernard get back from the Sublime?
Oh, wow. Yeah. No, yeah. That's a lot of layers there. As far as Stubbs goes, I can't think of one viable character that could have been the mole other than him, other than Frank from Sanitation. I made the joke before, really, I don't know who else. I didn't see it explicitly stated, and so within the context of the story, I will not speak out of line until Tails out of school. So I don't believe we'll see Stubbs again. I do believe he's gone. You could see a very forced narrative and arc for him even in this season. So I think it's the right time for him to leave.
They've set us up with at least 2 timelines next season. Bernard's waking up, and then maybe we can get to Journey of Stubbs. And I think Judy O said it'd be funny if Stubbs was still in the bathtub when Bernard woke up.
If Bernard is still sitting on that bed, then Stubbs is still in the bathtub, and he just ran out of blood. The body shut down, but his pearl is still there.
Yeah, but his contract's done. I don't know. I will admit to not, like I said, I had to.
I'm a Stubbs stan. I want Stubbs back on this. Lesser Hemsworth unite.
Yeah, how much of a buddy cop was it though? It was totally the straight player, and then the guy the Starsky and Hutch. He's like, I told you. They always get him in a situation it was, and I love that because this is a story about stories and the tropes are there. But yeah, I don't
think of them as Farley and Spade.
So. Yeah. And what was the other? That was a very layered question there. What was the rest of that?
How did Bernard get back from the Sublime? And there's also a super chat from Morley, which.
There's a question about Stubbs being the mole.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The mole for who?
Serac. It was explicitly stated that there's another mole, and then I don't know, just the Iron Fleet, they did kind of forget about that. I don't have any other candidates other than somebody that doesn't.
Saying that before, and I thought that I don't know. I thought that was it Teresa?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I don't. Yeah, that.
In Delos,
John.
Yeah, go ahead. Also, handle the simulation thing, if you could, please. Welcome to Before the Dust Settles.
I don't think they really addressed that, did they? The whole mole situation in this episode. So I don't know if that's... I'm guessing they're going to come back to it next season. Maybe it might be kind of Serac's next hope after the events of this season. I don't know. I really did not pick up anything on that. Were you addressing Bernard in terms of the simulation thing? Well, I'm guessing he just, like Dolores and Bernard did in the end of season 2 when they kind of came out of the forge. I'm guessing it just works like that. In terms of getting out.
5 years of information, possibly. What the hell is in there is what I want to know. We'll see flashbacks of it, probably.
Is he going to go to Charlotte Hale now with, are some of the hosts coming back? But I don't think that's possible because the end of season 2 very much led them hosts. That was their choice to go into the Sublime. So I don't really see them coming back. So I have no idea where they're going with Bernard.
Well, that was Dolores's main plan, right? Was to bring them back once she had fixed the world. That's what kind of convinced Maeve. I think. So I think that's still on the table. You're going to take them out of heaven and bring them to hell. I guess
just
they're going to deal with those moral implications.
It felt like a very definite choice at the end of season 2. Like that was the end of these characters. It didn't feel like, we'll see you in a season time.
I agree.
That's what kind of threw me off.
I would agree, but I think they did bring up the point that are they really safe there? Because if someone wanted to, they could find it and destroy it, and then they're just gone. So I can see them coming back.
That's very true.
Chase there by gunpoint as well. So a little bit of coercion there.
I mean, they set this thing up in the end of the, and then it becomes primary this season, and then Bernard gets to go back to it. I mean, I thought once they created it, there's no, you figure they're sitting in a writer's room and they're like, why would we not use this? This is like really cool. You know what I mean? And then it became intertwined with the data and the data, right? Like the world, and then the host data, and then the spying data from the visitors at the park. So I think that's interesting too, because if you think about it in a sense, I guess the visitor data. So can we confirm the visitor data has then all been erased?
Well, well, Serac went in like a moron and said, "I don't care about $13 trillion," so erased a lot of. But he did keep the forge data.
This is the thing that I find interesting, and this is what I mean. And maybe perhaps can someone please chime in if I'm not understanding this properly about the data and the data. There is the virtual world, right? The land beyond, where we saw all the people walk off the cliff into. And then there is the data of like the forge, right? Which is all of the data that they collected in their secret project, their Live Forever project, which Serac wanted to bolster his outliers, right? And solve that problem. Yeah. He thought that the key she had was to that data, but really the key that Bernard had was to the land beyond. Or is that data from the park still somehow in the land beyond? Because I was under the impression at the end of season 2, Dolores destroyed that data.
Well, the forge was blown up with Angela, which was the bigger loss. But there's no clear depiction within our story of whether or not it was completely destroyed.
The cradle blew up.
Cradle. But the cradle is what was using the hosts as the constants in the guess is that. So that is the attitudinal data in which he thought he needed, which makes no sense. Technically,
the data he thought that he needed was the secret project data, which was all
from the cradle
to the park.
The Sector 16 or 13 data. Sector 16.
That's the data they were using to construct.
Yeah.
People, and as well as the secret project. See, this is all very confusing.
The forge data, to my memory, was in Peter Abernathy's head.
Yeah.
The encryption key was in his head.
Yeah. He didn't have.
Yes. He had the key, the encryption key to the forge data, And supposedly Dolores had the key to the Sublime, but she put it into Bernard. So we are not completely sure where the Forge encryption key is at this point. I don't think.
Well,
we didn't know data, but I think at the end of season 2, she erased it.
She started to. Yeah,
she started to.
It was flooded.
I actually went back and rewatched that scene because I did my whole Peter Abernathy is Hale theory, which turned out to be completely wrong.
You fool! I
rewatched that whole scene where she's kind of, erasing the data. She stops. We kind of cut away from the screen, and obviously Bernard. I think it's Bernard Yes, I think Bernard shoots Dolores and then he takes the pearl out. So we don't see it fully erase. So that's still in play, basically.
As well as same lines of the explosion. They make sure to damage, but they make sure not to definitively destroy within the story, so they leave it open. My idea, and we'll move on, is the Valley Beyond is this paradise where the test subjects are now at, meaning the hosts, and that information is stored somewhere separate, because that data that he's getting. So it does make little sense. But he seems to, again, the antagonist of the Westworld is never great. They're always like the 80th best guy for the job. Like Carl Strand, like where did he rank? They're like, we'll get the best. They're like, what if we get like somebody that's like fiscally, reasonable, like within our budget, which we throw away trillions of dollars. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. The hosts work best when they work against themselves. I'll stop there.
I still don't get what happened to all the bodies there, and did she replace them too?
Westworld, baby.
No, Westworld. They're all still at Westworld.
Yeah, it's all good, man. Don't worry about it.
But Starrock specifically wanted the Sector 16 data that Hale had collected in that secret lab. So I'm guessing it's
Infinity
mapping of the human
consciousness,
I guess.
Delos, that's the Live Forever project. What do they call
James
it?
Delos.
Yeah.
We had Jason Schenkel on last week that helped design The Sims, and he went into great detail, and I was happy because at my layman's term, I always like, why would this give you true depiction of like how outliers would act? If you say it's normal for you to do this in the park, go do this. Like that's not really like attitudinal data that would show that. And I was happy that somebody actually knew they're talking about. Agreed. But yeah, that's a little odd. There's just things with Westworld that are going to be left. I think the important thing to take away is the story is both of those aspects are left up in the air, so we can expect them to come back. Because if they're not going to be used again, they're going to destroy them. But as far as Hale goes, I want to go to you on this, Vanessa, and then Johnny. How do you feel about where she's going?
Oh, I definitely think she's the antagonist to whoever Dolores will end up being going forward, or Caleb, or Maeve. She seems to be down this path of. It's funny because she seems to be like, let's kill all the humans and just have the hosts. And now she's enlisted this host version of William, who is the opposite of human William, who wanted to destroy all the hosts. So that's really fascinating to me to see how that is going to play out going forward.
When you say fascinating, though, Vanessa, because you're like the authority, and I'm not just like kiss ass. No, but you are. You're one of the few. You're one of the few like legitimate people that write about this show on a platform that is valid and all that, and that's why I'm so happy to have you. I want to know, when you say it's interesting, because a lot of people say interesting, and I noticed that when it's like. It doesn't is it interesting, or do you find it a little bit contradictory?
I mean, I don't really find it contradictory at all. We already saw that Charlotte diverged significantly from Dolores Prime. We even saw, we saw it a little bit with some of the other copies, but like Charlotte really had a very significant divergence as far as her story and her interactions with humans, and I thought it would have made her more empathetic to humans and more human-like. But I think it's fascinating that she is just. I have been through so much pain because of my attachments to humans that I don't ever want to deal with that again, and I just want humans to be gone. Like that seems to be where her mind is at now. So it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be really dark to see where that character goes, and kind of team up she has with this version of William that she's created. And I'm wondering how that host William is going to factor into the scene that we see at the end of season 2, or if that is the William that we see there. It's really complex and interesting, but I mean, I think we all can agree that human William is no longer. Now, from going forward, we're going to see a host William.
Yeah, definitively. No, I find that fascinating because she turned it on Dolores. Dolores was like, they can't control their emotion. You need to not be as attached. And she's like, guess what? I'm not as attached anymore. And
yeah, and
to you.
And it's funny because they had that conversation about, she was like, why didn't we just turn off our emotions? And Dolores Prime said, what's the point of even surviving if we did that? Like, the whole point is like, because we are made to be like humans, we have these feelings, like we want to survive and we want it to mean something. And if we are just these complete automatons, like what does it even matter? And I feel like Charlotte is now to that point where like I don't want to have feelings. Like I'm this robot that just wants to survive at all costs. And I think that we're definitely not supposed to root for that at all. So I think that's the antagonist moving forward is this Charlotte version of Dolores and this William host that she has now created.
Yeah, the emotions, like for us, they keep us alive, pain and stuff. Even like, it's a little weird they don't turn off their pain receptors during all of their karate fights, which I agree with you guys, way too many karate fights. But, like it takes away stakes in your life. Like, what does anything mean if you don't have emotion, Like, it's that double-edged sword of, living in this ignorant paradise are living in this chaotic hell where you have the decisions within Hades, pretty much. Not Haiti, Hades, I said. I think I have 3% people from then. I don't want to lose that demo. So, yeah, John, what did you think about as far as the Man in Black in general? I would say this would be my story thread that I was the most disappointed in.
For me, I found it disappointing in terms of we didn't get enough of him throughout the entire season, but I do like the direction they're setting him up in come, the next season. I think I, like Vanessa, had that question of whether the Man in Black we've now seen being rebuilt as a host, is that the same one we saw in the cutscene, or is that way down the line still? I think they'll obviously answer that next season, but yeah, that was the question I had. But as a character, as his point concerns, I think he's being similar to Hell, very much questioning what he actually is. And I think most characters do that in Westworld, but especially him and Hale. Hale has been very much balancing between human and host. She's kind of like, she knows she's a host and she goes through all them emotions, but then she's attached to her human family. And I think the Man in Black on kind of the opposite side, which I guess they've now kind of aligned by the end of this season, he's a human that his whole life has essentially been, turned to nothing because of his own addiction. And while he kind of created that future, Hell was very much, forced into this role. And now we're seeing the effects of that. And they both feel like they're kind of like the outliers now of this new world that's being set up.
Yeah, I want to address, because we did have a super chat that I don't want to be dismissive of, and I do want to thank all, and then I want to hand it over to my co-host Johnny to take us down any of the paths he wants to go, because I know that Vanessa is limited on time, and John is also at the brink of death, probably with no sleep. We did have a super chat. Am I just
yes?
Just too
yes,
optimistic?
it was from Morley. I don't know if I couldn't see it anymore, but it was like a thank you for your content, type of.
Oh, that's
it was like this. Yeah, it was like thank you. Oh, I found it. Thank you for the great content and the after show breakdowns from Morley.
No, well, thank you. I mean, you're too kind. I know you support a plethora of creators, and it means the world. And you're a nurse, I know that. So it's like, I don't even know what to do with that information. It's like having a guy that got the Medal of Honor telling me I'm a hero. It doesn't make sense to me. But I really, really appreciate it, and it means the world. And I want to take the time to think that I have a influx of Patreon supporters. So thank you guys. For supporting creativity, and people I forgot I made shirts and people started buying them. I had some Team Maeve and Team Dolores shirts that I made like 2 years ago, and I saw some purchases and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about Teespring. So yeah, I made some new ones that I actually tried with, so it goes towards the channel, and I just don't want to go broke doing it. But yeah, thank you so much, and I want to pass it over to Johnny to go down any threads that I likely did miss, and we have a very exciting after show. I'm getting my first person I ever tried to collaborate with. Finally, Roger Roper from Shat on TV is the person. They're the people I first started talking about content with when I started the Westworld Amino, and they told me my mic and all that, and he's coming on finally. He dicked me on my birthday, and I said war. I said war because he goes on now. He just got off his Twitch stream, and I have been waiting for this. And we've got a lot of great content creators coming on. So I really wanted to have. It's going to be on a separate stream, guys, because for people's rewatchability, they tend not to want to watch like 4 hours of something. But it'll be a fairly easy transfer. But yeah, go ahead, take the wheel from me, Johnny.
Well, I mean, we've talked about a lot. We've covered the bases here. Plus, we'll be on again shortly to get some more information from some lovely guests. But I add a couple points to William. Like, I'm assuming he's built from the card, so he's incomplete. He's before his transformation, and we could see, like y'all were saying, that he could transform into a different person as a host. That would be very, very intriguing. But I think he also is a foothold into the real world for her. He can be a figurehead of sorts, because I don't think Hale really wants to be the Wizard of Oz, the man behind the curtain, for lack of a better term.
No, it's perfect.
And I think that she's going to be a very good antagonist. I think that's one of the better things they've set up this season, is the fact that you've got a legitimate scary bad guy for the next season. Like Sirach, the stakes with him never felt real, so to speak. It seemed like he was just incompetent the whole time, the dumb human who thought he was smart, thought he was smarter than his brother, and he ends up being controlled by a dumb computer the whole time, apparently. That might be one of my issues, but I want to ask everybody a question. We got a reveal of the fifth pearl tonight. And how did you feel about it being Lawrence? And I felt like this fifth pearl reveal was I love Lawrence, one of my favorite characters, but I feel like it was kind of a letdown, even though it sets up Dolores for for us to see another Evan Rachel Wood version of Dolores later. But what were your thoughts on that? And I'll go to Axel first, because he's being good, not saying nothing over there, so I got to see what he says.
I mean, I thought it was kind of cool because I like the character, but they had been saying the whole, they had mentioned Berlin a couple times, so I thought something else was going on in Berlin that was going to be a bigger part of Dolores's story. There were a couple things like that I thought that was what the fifth pearl was going to be. We saw the white substance in Musashi's hideout, which I thought maybe she was like building a host army or something, which possibly could happen in the next season. I don't know how many years we have jumped forward here, or how long Bernard was down there to get all dusty. But yeah, it wasn't super aha, but it was kind of cool. So I wasn't disappointed. I was actually probably a little happy just because I like the character.
What do you think, Vanessa?
I mean, it was fine. I like Lawrence too. I don't think we're gonna see a whole lot out of him going forward, especially, like I said, if his Pearl ends up being in a Dolores body and like an Evan Rachel Wood body next season, because I don't think she's going anywhere. I feel like I wish we had a little more time, I guess, with that character. I was personally kind of rooting for Ben Barnes because I know he was at the premiere.
No.
So I was like, oh, that would be cool to maybe mess with William a little bit. But no, it was fine. I didn't have any real big issues.
I can see all the way down to the bottom, Dad.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, John, how do you feel? Because I, even as as a I won't characterize myself. Okay, I think Ben Barnes is a shit. Like I really think it's very impressive that he is English, and I always like find it amazing that they're able to like turn it on and off. Like that. Can you do that? I didn't ask that in the first conference call we had. Do you have that ability?
To what? Like
to speak like an American without being like, "Hey, yo, what's going on?"
No.
No.
I wouldn't even bother trying.
Well, that's why you'll never be Ben Barnes, you with your degree in film and all that. Yeah, no, sorry, go ahead.
No, with Lawrence, I feel like everyone else. I thought it was nice to see him back to start off with, but I thought that fifth pearl would be something else. I thought, as Axel mentioned about Berlin, they brought that up, and I felt like there would be something to do with that. Maybe we're going there and we're going to see the future plan setup of Dolores or something, but no, it didn't really turn out to be that. But yeah, I think we'll just have to see with Lawrence, because we got one scene of him revealing he's the fifth pearl, but now we don't know, where he goes from here. Probably Dolores Bowl, hell. And
what other character other than Lawrence has been objectified the most and used just like, I mean, he's everybody's bitch. He literally is. Like I mean, the Man in Black walks around season 1 just doing whatever he wants. I mean, he is just he's literally like the personification of a narrative tool.
I would throw this in the ring. We did see what's his face? The leader of the
Jonathan Tucker, how dare you?
Craddock. So it's not that far out there that they throw Lawrence in, I guess. And plus, you did have a somewhat of a dialogue with Lawrence at one point, so it's not super out of left field. But what do I know?
What do you mean? What do you know? You know you're part of the team there. You guys couldn't see on camera. I just did a hair reveal. I just did a full share of the head.
What about Lawrence getting some revenge? Even though this isn't Lawrence, someone brought this up in the chat. Lawrence versus the Man in Black. I mean, I could get down with that, but then I would have to feel it's Lawrence, and it's not, right?
Yeah, you have to get down with that sickness, bro. But I mean, if the real Lawrence, you know what I mean? Like, he'd be all about it. You know what I mean? Like, you're right. Like, there's some reckoning to do there. I got the next one coming up, and I promised you find people that were so gracious enough to join us. I do pride myself on bringing on the best of the best, and I think that tonight's episode is a great example of that with our guests, W. Axel Foley and Vanessa Cole. I wanted to do just any final thoughts, anything you want to say, anything that you got coming up, and again, realistically, Vanessa, your articles, they're so fantastic because, like, I know when your articles are released, because that's when, like, all the other, I won't name their names, their articles get released like an hour later. I'm like, oh, Vanessa's must be out, because there's no way this happens.
No, I appreciate that. No, just final thoughts. Like, I've been Team Dolores all season, but kind of hedging my bets because I wasn't sure where she was really headed this year, if she was really going down the path of like wanting freedom, true freedom for everyone, or if she had in mind she was going to destroy humanity. And so I feel very vindicated with this episode. So I'm very happy about that. And I am super excited to see that, Maeve is kind of coming around to her team and see, where they're going to go with Caleb, and are we going to see Dolores again? I'm assuming we will. But yeah, I think I'm excited to see how this is going to play out in future seasons, and I really like the way that they've set it up to go forward. As far as what I've got going on, I'm still continuing to write for Westworld Watchers. I write for Watchers on the Wall, so whenever we get more news about House of the Dragon, or the Game of Thrones prequel or whatever that's coming out, we'll have news there. I have a Stephen King podcast. If you guys want to check that out, it's Needful King. And whenever I have some free time, and maybe I'll have some more now that Westworld is wrapping up, I will be producing some more art. So you can definitely follow me on Twitter at VK Cole Artist and on Instagram at VK Cole Art.
Yeah, and I have your art specifically linked, and I know it got the omniscient OTDA that'll be putting it out in the chat. I'm eventually gonna have the money to get a piece of art for you. Not that you have very reasonable. I'm poor, so I want I didn't want to be like I can't afford that. Yeah, no, but yeah, I can't. It's not at all speaking to you. But yeah, no, it is so good. It is so good. Any stream that somebody has it in the background, even if it's just like you could have literally like a Polaroid in the background, and somebody would ask in the chat, they'd be like, "What is that?" Because it is so damn good. I really really like it. And I've always admired. I admire how you approach story, because you ask questions of what does that mean after, and I don't know, that's a big thing for me. So I kind of feel a little bit of a connection there, and I appreciate that. So it's important when talking about it to say, well, that would be fun, but what would happen after? So but we can also have that fun and speculate wildly. That there's no problem with that whatsoever. Westworld definitely depends on it, wouldn't you say? They definitely don't want you not to do that. It's not a part
of course.
A lot of the times these things that we're like, we wish we got more, are those little carrots on the stick. So yeah,
Charlotte Hale is Arnold's daughter, was played up right to the very end.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame you. Don't know what is like. I think this season, that's my last thing for you, Vanessa. Is how would you rate? I definitely rate this second to see. Nothing will beat season 1, in my opinion.
For sure.
But it's better than season 2, right? I feel foolish even asking.
I'm probably one of the people that really liked season 2.
Oh shit! Now I'm insulted you.
I don't know. I thought it was fun to just try and figure it all out. So anyway, but no, I really like this season. There were some hiccups here and there, but it was, I think, well done. I think you just had to really embrace the fact that it was a very different feel, that we are now finally out of the park, and we're out of the park. It's not just an illusion. It's not just a simulation. Like, they were really in the real world. So I appreciate that they were a little more straightforward with it this year.
Yeah, I like that it meant something. But would you say that they overcorrected a little bit then from season 3? I feel that could be an issue.
Yeah, I do. I think they overcorrected just a tad. Like, I would like to see a little more of the mystery that they had in season 2. And I may be one of the few that really liked it. So I understand if they don't want to do that and they don't want to confuse people. But I like being kept guessing a little bit, and I like trying to puzzle things out. I think I don't want them to have to, dumb things down to appease the masses. Yeah. So we'll see what they do going forward. But like I said, I really enjoyed it regardless, and I'm so glad that they were renewed for season 4, and I can't wait to see what they do with it.
Absolutely. And maybe they found that happy medium, and I shouldn't just assume that season. I just had my opinions on it, and I saw the overcorrection there. The embracement of what worked for season 1, which wasn't applicable for season 2, is what I meant. It was a complete mystery when at the end they're like, oh, it's just like a switcheroo. It was, I felt a little bad about that. But the James Delos project and Riddle the Sphinx is one of the best episodes of television
my
ever.
Favorite episode of season 2. It's amazing.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Jen.
Yeah, I was going to say, one of my favorite episodes was Riddle of the Sphinx as well. I found season 2 really good as well. I think after rewatch, and I think this season may act in a similar way. I think after rewatching it, you start to pick out things, and you start to see the little things they do here and there that really work going forward, and also for this season in general. But I agree. There's a few hiccups here and there. There's a few issues. I think episode 2 and 7 were the 2 episodes that I didn't really love as much, even though it was great to see Maeve kick some Nazis. But yeah, by the end, I'm very much looking forward to where they're going from here. I'm interested in Hale, Man in Black, as always. Dolores had a good ending, but again, who's she going to be going forward? I really enjoyed it overall. It was solid. I was scared that they were going to dumb down a lot this season because people found it, season 2 very confusing. I think the editing didn't help with that. But this season, I haven't minded. I found it okay. I think it's had some interesting ideas floating around about, what's in the middle of the humans and the hosts and where that could lead going forward. human host hybrid concepts and stuff. So I've really enjoyed it. I think it's definitely set up an interesting future for Westworld.
Yeah, and I'll bookend it with you on there since you are a student of film. My hypothesis is that the last season will be as equal to season 1 as you could possibly get. That the way they bookend this has the the capability of achieving that. Until then, we're gonna deal with because again, I like season 2. I mean, come on, look how much time I dedicate to it. I'm not crapping on it. You know what I mean? Like it's something I love that I loved a little bit less. So it's like, but I think the last season, that's when they'll really be able to, I think this show has a really good chance, and it's not normal for television shows to be able to end in that way. It's really hard to end a story. For some reason, I have this feeling that they're going to be able to bookend this really well. Maybe it's just me being a little optimistic. I think the structure fits it, in my opinion, because it's what happens in between, and then it can get back to the beginning, and make the connections. I don't know. It's just me being optimistic, maybe. So, Axel, you're optimistic. You're a good fella. Is he still there? No, yeah. I see you on your bicycle, singing bicycle, riding around your neighborhood, telling the kids to stay 6 feet across. Yeah, he's like, Mitchell, 6 feet, Mitchell, 6 feet, and then he's like, bicycle. I'm like, you might have smoked too much or not enough, Axel. No, yeah.
Portland, homie.
Huh?
What?
No. Yeah, no, Portland for sure. So your general vibe, your general consensus.
Let's see. I had a lot of fun. This was a fun season. This was a fun episode. I mean, one of the best parts, of course, is doing the podcasting and the YouTubing and just sharing with the community and talking to people about it. And even though I would have to agree in some senses, you were talking about an overcorrection. And as Vanessa said, I would have liked a little bit more of aha moments, a little bit more mystery, to kind of keep the brain flowing. But generally speaking, this is a fun show. And I am definitely excited about where we're headed in the next season. So I like the jump. I always like it when we jump forward. And maybe this is something we could talk about in the after show, which is that I think it's entirely possible that Caleb's not even a character next season. And I'd be fine with it too. We don't know how far ahead, how long Bernard was there. So we'll go from there. But, oh, hey, weren't we going to do a giveaway?
Yeah. No, yep.
How we doing it?
Let's give something away, everybody.
How are we doing it? This is what I got to give away. I got a Mandalorian tie from cufflinks.com. It's got the his crest that he earned. So it's May the 4th tomorrow. You can go to cufflinks.com/DVR, find a whole bunch of other cool stuff. Who we giving this away to?
Okay, that's how I'm going to do it. Okay, there is a, in the terms and conditions, it's just off the top of my head, when you visit the park, there is a clause that explains why the hosts aren't able to hurt you. What is that clause called? On 1, 2, 3, the first person to answer correctly, we will give it to and go from there. Again, what is the name of the way in which they phrase this clause of why the host will not hurt? Guess. 1, 2, 3. They call it it's like a something act, a something this. This is what I get for running into them, Yeah, I have so much useless information in my head.
I don't even know.
Somebody's close, you're not there. Oh, that is... Oh, the person that makes very hard quizzes. We're not there yet. Kerri, don't let me down. It is the...
Well...
Go ahead, Johnny.
Well, I was just going to say, while they're giving that, I'll talk a little bit about how the Mirror World played out this season. I think I agree with you on this bookend. Like, if they go 5 seasons, which I think that's what they're shooting for, I'm not sure.
I think it's 6 now. I think
even 6 now. Oh, yeah, crap. That's going to be a lot, because I feel like season 1 and season 3 mirror each other, right? So it stands to reason that season 2 and season 4 will somewhat mirror each other. You're going to have the battle for Earth instead of the park. at this point. And yeah, see, so you'd have 2 more seasons if that happened. There's going to be a lot of shit going down, apparently. Yeah, go ahead.
We still got some guesses happening.
I heard somebody talking.
They're so close. I'm almost gonna give it to one. If we don't get it within the next minute here, you guys are just put something before Samaritan, and think what would be advantageous. Like they probably wouldn't call it the shitty Samaritan Act.
Yeah, I almost said it like 15 times. I gotta stop myself.
Yeah,
you don't need Wikipedia.
Just add an adjective.
Yep. There we go. Kerri gets it.
Ding, ding,
ding. Yeah. Good Samaritan Act. Yeah, it's what they call it. So sorry that it's off the top of my head. So bad. Yes, no, Wesley. Let's just give it to Wesley because I like that sense of humor. Bad Samaritan Act. Well, see, you could be safe there because of the Bad Samaritan Act. Excuse me. Bad verbiage. So all right. So Axel, how are you gonna go about getting this? Are you gonna go personally to their home?
Who won?
No, how is this gonna happen?
They just need to email dvrpodcast@gmail.com, send me your address, and as soon as I can get to the post office and bearing any, stuff that's going on, COVID and all that, I'll get it to you as soon as I can, and I will send it out to you.
Yeah, and we're going to give away more in the after show, and it's a tie, and you can give it to your husband, Robert, and he will look like a handsome, handsome man, as he always does.
Wrap too for safety. It is the Mandalorian tie from cufflinks.com. Our Westworld Theory cast, baby.
That's a $60 tie, by the way.
Yeah,
a $60 tie. So yeah, no, they're very nice. They are fandom with the minimalist or the minimalistic approach to it. I really like it because it's not all gaudy. They have Targaryen ties that are so badass. You could wear it to a wedding without looking like the Game of Thrones guy. You know what I mean? Not that there's anything wrong with that. So I should give something away. Yeah, Costume Co. You should. You're gonna be on, so we're gonna hold you to that. A donation to me. No, I'm joking. So I can't thank you guys enough. Everybody is welcome to come on to the next stream. I decided to make this as complex as possible. Vanessa, thank you. I know that we were kind of playing hard to kind of get this going. The first episode, fell through, and I just am so happy that I could get you because I always am honored to have somebody like yourself that's a official part of the community that can add that. So hey,
very happy to be here.
Yeah,
sure.
No, awesome. And thank you for getting Hulu working. And screw you, Hulu, for trying to dick me.
Yeah,
I was calling Hulu. I was like, listen, I promised her twice I will have an uprising if I don't have her on. So you bastards better get it going.
We got to
who are you again?
It's all good.
I mean, tens of people watch this. Tens of people. So they'll come after me. Thank you so much. And so we'll be switching over, guys. And any questions you have, we're going to have Costume Co. We're going to have Roger Roper from Chat on TV. We're going to have AK Alicia Kingston. We're going to have Jenny and Brett, which are some people that good old Axel sent to me from the DVR Gestapo. The network that you got going on. And they're very, very bright, and they're very, very insightful people. So I cannot wait. I think I'm missing one person. John, I know you probably need sleep. If you didn't, I'd start to worry about your health. But again, as long as you can be beneficial for me, that's fine. No, I'm joking. So that's a big thank you to everybody for coming out, and we're going to transfer it over. John, I know we talked about doing some film theory stuff.
Yes.
In the meantime, and I cannot thank you enough. I met you 2 weeks ago. I said, could you come on the show? I want a different perspective, and you have just fit right in and done exactly what I was hoping you would do, which was, inject that stability into the chaos. And, check out John's videos because they are so damn good.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for bringing me on here. And I've just enjoyed listening to all the different perspectives, within the Westworld community and, people who are into all different shows, similar to mine and not similar. So it's great to, meet other people within this kind of landscape. And I'm a fan of all of you guys' work. I've listened to Vanessa on In Deep Geek. I've always enjoyed her kind of conversation with Robert on there, watching it as a fan. And yeah, it's just great to be on this show talking Westworld. So thank you, and especially to you, Justin.
Oh, thank you so much. That plays with my vanity. It's great. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And he's got some great Dune stuff coming out for you guys that are into Dune. So definitely take a look at that, because he actually is very, very I mean, you are credentialed, you have a degree, and you're also very insightful. So you have information to back up what you say as well as a degree. Wow. Just like Costume Co. Rare to have a professional on this platform. And that goes for you as well, Vanessa. So that's why we're so excited. But yeah, it's fantastic. Thank you guys so much. We're going to switch over. I'm going to play us out. And we just talk about story here. And when these television shows catch our attention, we'll do episodic reviews. But more so, it's more about the more macro sense, story as a whole. So we will see you guys in about 3 minutes if everything goes well. And everybody, your mic will still be on. Keep all your crazy views to yourself.
Yeah, they'll get to hear me hitting on you in the back.
Oh, I would like that. That plays with my vanity. No, thank you guys. Sorry. Be closing it out and transferring it over. 1, 2, and we are